Morning.
Good morning.
And welcome again to Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living. And this is a time on Sundays where we set aside a few moments just to forget about the world. Just let it fade into the background. Set aside all your worries and woes, frustrations, anxiousness, and allow your body, your mind, your spirit to be calm, to relax. And so I just invite us to take 3 nice, deep cleansing breaths. When you bring it in, just bring as much as you can and hold it. And then you can release it. You can release it with sound. You don't have to release it silently. And so we'll take in 1 nice deep breath. Hold it. And release. Another nice deep breath in. And holding it. And release. And 1 more nice deep breath in. And release. And as I said, as we release anything that came before this moment, knowing that in this time and place, we can allow ourselves to be grounded, to be centered, to be present in the here and now. And if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. In this beautiful day, in this beautiful environment around us, I just want to invite each of us to go within and ask the question, am I living the life I was meant to live? Am I living the life that I was meant to live? And as things come to you, just allow them to come without criticism, without judgment. Just allow them to show up. To show up and answer, am I living the life I was meant to live? Am I living the life that I am meant to live? Now I just invite you to kind of set those things aside, and during the week, you can go over the answers, or if you need to, go back and ask yourself that question. Am I living the life that I was meant to live? And just ponder that, contemplate it, and see if yes, you're fine. If no, what steps do I need to take to further allow this to take place? And now I just invite you to wiggle your fingers and your toes, and maybe your nose. And when you feel comfortable, open your eyes and come back to the room. And so it is. And now, for the reading, I was going to read one thing, but I think I'm going to do this instead. Oops. Some of you probably read it. If you read the Science of Mind every day. This is for today, June 8th. And the title of the article is Hope in Living Color. Part of being optimistic is keeping one's head pointed toward the sun, one's feet moving forward. There were many dark moments when my faith in humanity was sorely tested, but I would not and could not give myself up to despair. That was by a quote by Nelson Mandela. Color belongs to us. Because God is a colorful being. How can that which painted nature with such a lavish brush be anything but colorful? And that's a quote from Ernest Holmes. Harvey Milk said, "Hope will never be silent." What does this mean to you? For some, hope is a form of wishing. It offers thoughts and prayers with no substantive action. It's the dead representation that represents from faith without works. Active, healing, life-affirming hope requires a different mental equivalent. Are we ready to hope that lives that lives in living color? I express it this way. My eyeballs. Hope, which stands for how our power/presence expresses. A world that works for all requires this kind of hope. This is the hope that emerged as a gay liberation movement and fueled the ACT UP movement. This is the hope that inspired the suffragettes and the abolitionists. This hope burned in the belly of Nelson Mandela while in a cell on Robben Island and Dr. Martin Luther King while in a Birmingham jail. This hope, how our power expresses, how our presence expresses, is the hope that is the open heart and open mind. It is the hope that communicates even when it is uncomfortable. It serves even when others do not understand or agree. It is rooted in principle, even when the ground around us breaks and shakes. Dietrich Bonhoeffer also spoke of what it means to be silent. He wrote, "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. Hope acts, it serves, heals, and comforts, and it speaks truth because it must, because it has no other choice." And the affirmation is, my life is the activity of a vibrant and colorful hope. Wherever I am, the power of this hope heals all I come in contact with. And so it is.
My mama told me when I was young, we're all born superstars. She rolled my hair and put my lipstick on in the glass of her boudoir. There's nothing wrong with loving who you are, she said, 'cause he made you perfect, babe. So hold your head up, girl, and you'll go far. Listen to me when I say I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't hide yourself in regret, just love yourself and you say I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. Born this way, there ain't no other way. Baby, I was born this way. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Give yourself prudence and love your friends. Subway kid, rejoice your truth. In the religion of the insecure, I must be myself, respect my youth. A different law is not a sin. Believe, capital H, I am. Hey, hey, hey. I love my life, I love this record, and mi amore vuole fare. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't hide yourself in regret, just love yourself and you say I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. Born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. No matter gay, straight or bi, lesbian, transgender life, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born to survive. No matter black, white or beige, chola or Orient maid, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born to be brave.
So I wanted to root us in that experience of being born this way. And I picked that particular version because with the a cappella, it's just the voices. It's just the power of the voice. It isn't a percussion session. It isn't a pianist going wild. It isn't a guitarist going wild. It's just the power of our voices. And that's one of the big things with the science of my teachings is there's so much power in our voice and in what we say. And in the midst of everything that's happening, it can be very easy to forget our power. Today, I'm going to be focusing, the talk is be what we're born to be. So born this way. And so the question is, what unique gifts and qualities do we bring to share in the world? We're not really in a position to share any of those unique qualities or gifts when we hold ourselves back. So as many of you may know, this month has been identified as Pride Month. And that's been formally part of what's gone on in the United States since 1999, when Bill Clinton named June Pride Month. Gay Lesbian Pride Month was its initial name with implementation. However, during the years, the LGBTQIA+ community has expanded. One element of the community is that it's very aware of all of the ways that it can be splintered. And so it's been very deliberate about trying to heal those fractures. It's been very deliberate about trying to own all the potential members. And it's unusual. We find so many times that when there's a split, it's very easy to just stay split. This teaching by Ernest Holmes early on broke into two communities, broke into two groups, two church organizations. There's some current rumblings that may happen again. So much of what we face is about how can we get as much division as possible. This week has been a soap operatic drama. Basically the content of which is really like middle school girls that are just like, you used to be my friend and now you're not. And yes, I used to be your friend and now I know all these dirty things about you and I can share them. And there's this escalating threat, which if I really loved those people, I might be a bit more disturbed. I'm not really thrilled or rooted in rooting for those people. So I'm kind of like, you go off and have your drama. And it's an object lesson that we don't all have to go that way. We don't all have to have a bestie and then turn and be a reviler of their very existence. The one wants to call it the big beautiful bill, and the other one is like, this is a big awful bill. There's nothing beautiful about it. Now, obviously, you can all imagine that I have opinions about the presence of beauty. In today's consideration, I want us to play around with the notion of pride. And the reason that I want to look at pride is that in my upbringing, and Stephanie may have a similar experience, in my upbringing as a Catholic, pride was one of the seven deadly sins. There's even a movie where the person goes through and takes out each person according to one of the deadly sins in which they engaged. So it's always felt a little, my upbringing kind of planted this seed that it's like, ooh, pride, what do I do with it? I want to be proud, but there's this piece that's like, historically, this ingrained attitude that there's this problem with pride. And really, I want to do some healing around that anti-pride orientation that can be built. one of the people who proposed the notion of pride had been raised Catholic. And they very deliberately wanted to take part of their upbringing and flip the switch. They wanted to flip it on its head. They wanted it to be seen in a whole new way. So throwing it out as a deadly sin, in the same way that they wanted their own identity as a queer person to be celebrated and recognized in a way outside of that condemnation of deadly sin. So I got 5 considerations with respect to pride and how we can tune into and tap into those powers of pride. A couple characters that are going to help us along the way include Dorothy, who ended up in Oz. They include Clark Kent, whose alter ego is Superman. And they include Wonder Woman, Diana Prince. So one of the things about all of those characters is that their lives don't go in the direction that everyone had imagined for them when they were infants. With pride, you are coming back to that wholeness. When a parent first sees, at least I can say, when I first saw my little Emily and when I first saw my little Elizabeth, there was nothing in the world that was more remarkable and outstanding and glorious and fabulous than that little being. And I know it's not the way for everyone, but many people do have the experience where their parent looks at them with a sense of awe and wonder. We all know in the story of Clark Kent, Clark got sent away. He got sent far, far away because his home world was destroyed. You can't hang out there on a destroyed home world. It just doesn't work all that well. You never really hear much about Dorothy. You just know that she's the orphan and she's staying with her Auntie Em. And Diana has a mother, but there are mysteries about her origins. And her mom never pulls her aside and says, honey, this is really how it happened. This is everything about your story. Many of us don't have someone telling us about our story. So that the first step that I want us to look at is self-acceptance and joy. I want us to look at love and joy. Because no matter how we came into the world, love was somehow connected there. And joy was also experienced there because there's just that sense of the awesomeness of that new little being. So when we take pride of our identities, we take pride of who we are, we're able to tally all of our unique qualities. And we're able to see how many we can land in the plus side rather than throwing them under the bus and saying, oh, I wish I didn't have this. I wish I didn't have this. I wish I didn't have this. How much time have we wasted wishing we were something that we aren't? How much time have we spent wasted because we couldn't accept what we are? With the notion of queer pride, with the notion of gay pride, it's that the society, I grew up with very heteronormative kinds of stories. There weren't a bunch of stories where two princes got together and lived happily ever after. There weren't stories where princesses got together and lived happily ever after. It was very heteronormative. A prince would end up with a princess. You would discover that the little country boy was actually a prince. You would discover that the peasant is actually, much bigger than that and worthy of the princess and worthy of being the ruler. Those were the kinds of stories. And in my own queer journey, part of it was seeing that that story wasn't my story. One of the stories I can tell you about is, I remember on my wedding day, my soon-to-be sister-in-law commented about kind of how anxious and distressed I looked. And I didn't have the words to say, Allison, the reason I look distressed or anxious is because I'm queer. I'm only getting married because it's what I'm supposed to do. I didn't have the words for that. How many times have we gone into stories because that was the expected route? That was the expectation. How many times do we continue living in stories and we just go on and we don't stop ourselves and say, wait a second, is this my story? Is this where I'm supposed to be? With that notion of gay pride, with that notion of pride, it's about accepting who and what we are. So when we can accept who and what we are, so moving from self-acceptance and joy, we get to move into healthy relationships. And really, that first one is about, how do I have a healthy relationship with who I am? I can't very well have a healthy relationship with me if I'm lying about who me is. If I wake up in the morning and look at me and I'm like, you big liar, go ahead, go out there, be a liar in the world. It's not going to attract a lot of good things. One of the things about that Clark Kent and Wonder Woman and Dorothy is, I want you to take a moment, and there's what's called the Superman pose. And just take a moment, and if you want, just get into the Superman pose. Feel your back arch. Feel yourself looking upwards, out across the universe. Feel your chest wide and open. Now, this pose literally changes the neurochemistry in our body. So when we assume this pose, we are assuming a position of greater strength and power. How often do we stop and step into that? How often do we allow our relationships to uphold us and uplift us? I mean, the fact is that eventually Clark Kent comes out to Lois as Superman. He comes out of the closet and lets her know who he really is. And again, the whole Wonder Woman thing is, it's kind of hard. I wonder how it is that people don't notice that amazing Diana Prince is anything else. I mean, she's able to mask it behind, oh, I was just busy. I was busy this weekend. I was just reading books. Yeah, you're reading books, all right. And Dorothy lands in Oz a helpless, lost child. Michael has added the word annoying. To have this healthy relationship is to step into our own identity and to be who we truly are. And in being who we truly are, being what we're born to be. I'm on the right track, baby, because I was born this way. A healthy relationship upholds who we are born to be and where we're going. In those healthy relationships with ourselves and with others, we can experience both love and unity. We find a connection, we find a wholeness, we find something that we did not necessarily recognize before.
The next thing that I want to play with is the role that courage and strength plays with pride. Pride in who we are lets us stand up for ourselves and others. We are in a time now when so many people are standing up. We see so many people being put down. And we're seeing the courage of people rising up to say, I'm not part of that. In the reading this morning, when Michael said, when we don't act, we're acting. When we don't speak up, we're speaking. Our silence lets the ongoing storyline continue without interruption. Pride lifts our capacity to find courage. I see the power in you. I see the power in me. I see the strength in you. I see the strength in me. With pride in who we are, we lean into that. We all know that when we lean into our natural capacities, there are strengths there. And once again, consider the times that we tried to be something else. When we tried to be something else, how genuinely strong could we be? There's a practice for checking about our reaction to things, whether something's right or wrong. There's a physiometric way of checking things. There's this kinesthesiology. So you can check on the veracity of things with this kinesthesiology. You know, have you ever had anybody, you hold your arm out and then if it's something true, you're able to maintain your strength. When it's not true, it falls away. With that, you need someone else who's going to be pushing on your arm or asking you the questions. To do it to yourself, you can just take your two little forefinger and thumb, and interlock them, and then ask the question: am I a woman? I'm not getting much strong there. Am I a queer? I'm getting a very strong thing there. It's a way to play with it. We're strong. We're able to hold our own position when we know ourselves and when we have pride in ourselves. So we've talked about self-acceptance and love, or love and joy. We've talked about healthy relationships, or love and unity. We've talked about courage and strength, which is power and right action. The next thing to consider is truth and wholeness. Pride encourages us to engage honestly and truthfully with ourselves. There was a show a number of years ago called Lie to Me. And there were people who were skilled at being able to read micro expressions. And by reading those micro expressions, they could know if someone was lying. It's very hard, for instance, to make eye contact, to make sustained eye contact if you're telling a lie. There are things that the body just does that it can't hold when we're lying. Standing in truth aligns us with our wholeness. And upholding our authenticity also empowers us to live from our values. and we're living from our values, isn't that reinforcing our sense of wholeness? If we don't believe in something, but we're doing it, does that help us feel whole or not? Has anybody had a job where you went to it and you just didn't feel like this was you? How do we uphold our wholeness in that place? How do we uphold our sense of truth? Our sense of who we are? The last thing that I want to speak to with respect to the power of pride is the notion of beauty and power. Now, I don't know about you, but I can certainly say for me, any of the Superman movies I saw, Superman was just really luscious and gorgeous. And the movies I've seen, the characters I've seen with Wonder Woman, I mean, I'm assuming people would think that she's attractive. I mean, it's striking me that Linda Carter, who played Wonder Woman back in the 70s and 80s. Well, but Linda Carter, she came back. She came back to the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman 1984. She played at the end. Looked pretty good for a woman of her age. There's a line from the Mockingjay and the whole Hunger Games series where Katniss's kind of coach says to her, everybody wants to be you or sleep with you or just they want you. That's really the experience for Superman and for Wonder Woman. Dorothy, not so much. Dorothy of Oz, people aren't really thinking about her that way. But what they are thinking is, as she's tapping her shoes at the end, aren't they thinking, I wish I had that power? Aren't people thinking, what if I just click my heels? What if I have the power all along? What if I've been trekking along all of these ways, if I could have just clicked my heels and gotten there? Who doesn't have that moment, that fantasy of life being easier? The thing about all three of them, Dorothy and Wonder Woman and Superman, is that they're all presences of power and beauty. I mean, they don't typically look for actors who are ugly to play those roles. They don't typically pick people who can't do anything. Dorothy's journey is how she becomes a character of power. How at the end, as the balloon and the wizard are flying away, and she's all sad. It's like, you don't have to be sad because you've had the power all along. It's a shift at the very end where Dorothy becomes whole. At the end of the first movie of Wonder Woman, she realizes who she is. She realizes that she is one of the gods. And Clark Kent realizes that he has a power to be able to bring good. Pride is something that can inspire and it can empower. In the one version of the movie where Batman goes after Superman and Superman dies, the world is left disempowered. And this big, awful, icky person comes in Because he's like, I can just sense how low the energy is here now, and it's my perfect time to come back and take over the world. But it's that threat that unites people who wouldn't normally work together to come together and say, how do we bring Superman back? What do we do to make this happen? And you really needed a whole crew of folks to make it happen. Pride is something that lets us find our power. Pride is something that lets us then, by living from our power, we can inspire others, and others can take on and recognize their own power. We all know the story the writing of Nelson Mandela in the inaugural speech. It wasn't written by him, but it's that notion that when we keep ourselves small, that isn't doing the world a favor at all. By letting our magnificence shine, that's what inspires others. So my life work for this week is pick one, just one. Now, if you want more, there are more, but pick one place. Are you going to be engaging in self-acceptance and joy? Are you going to be engaging in courage and strength? Are you going to be engaging in healthy relationships with yourself or with others? Are you going to be playing with your wholeness and your authenticity? Are you going to be living in inspiration and empowerment? What's one that you can say, I can do that? I'm willing to try that on. In this Pride Month, I'm willing to try any of those pathways that Pride opens up. I'm willing to continue walking down that path. And as I walk down, that my Superman pose is easier and easier to accept. So I'll conclude with our affirmation. Please join me. We'll do it 3 times. I love who I am, knowing my higher self guides my every step. I love who I am, knowing my higher self guides my every step. I love who I am, knowing my higher self guides every step. And so it is.